imagine this scenario. You're a dedicated federal worker, you get injured on the job, and suddenly everything's just upended. You're facing piles of paperwork, a really complex system, and this one huge nagging question. When can I actually go back to work safely? That feeling, that uncertainty, being kind of lost in the bureaucracy, it can be incredibly stressful. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a tool that's designed to, well, cut through some of that guesswork. Functional Capacity Evaluations, FCEs for short. Our focus today comes from looking at a whole stack of resources about FCEs, specifically for federal workers dealing with the Office of Workers' Compensation Programs, that's OWCP.
Right. And our mission here is really to pull out the most important bits about FCEs, make them super clear and, actionable for you. Think of an FCE as a really detailed diagnostic tool. It's a comprehensive, objective test of what you can physically do and what your limitations are after an injury. Usually it's done by trained professionals like physical therapists or maybe chiropractors. The main goal: to give this undeniable, objective picture of what you can actually do. It helps figure out if you can safely go back to your regular job, if you need certain restrictions or maybe accommodations, or if you're just, well, not quite there yet.
So it's almost like getting a really precise map of your physical capabilities at that moment.
Exactly.
A map. And I guess in a system like federal workers' comp, which really relies on documentation and solid evidence, having that kind of hard data must be incredibly powerful.
Oh, absolutely. It is. And what makes these FCE reports so valuable, especially for OWCP, is that they use standardized, research-backed tests and measurements. This means the results are consistent, they're credible, and they carry real weight with your claim because it's based on solid, verifiable evidence, not just, how you feel that day.
Oh, here's where it gets really interesting for me. We know what it is now, but let's dig into the why. Why is this objective map so critical for an injured federal worker? What's the real value here?
Well, the first big reason is just that objective proof of your abilities and your limitations. After an injury, there's often a lot of uncertainty, right? About what you can actually physically handle, things like lifting or standing for a long time, carrying stuff, pushing, pulling, bending. The FCE actually puts numbers on those things. So for instance, if lifting things feels much harder than before, the FCE shows exactly how much weight you can safely lift and maybe how often. This measured data, because it is standardized, carries a lot of weight. With doctors, sure, but also employers, and crucially, OWCP claims examiners. For your OWCP claim, this objectivity basically turns subjective feelings of pain or difficulty into documented, measurable limitations. It makes your case much, much stronger.
Right, so it moves beyond, I feel like I can't lift that, to the test shows I can safely lift X pounds. That's a huge difference in getting through the red tape.
It really is. And that clarity leads right into the next point: determining a safe return to work. An FCE directly addresses that huge question. Are you actually safe to go back? And if so, doing what? The evaluation compares your measured abilities directly to your specific job requirements. If you physically can't do essential tasks, the FCE documents it clearly. This helps your doctors and your employer figure out if modifications are needed or maybe some kind of light duty. Like, imagine your job needs you to lift 50 pounds frequently, but the FCE clearly shows your safe limit right now is 20 pounds. That gap is documented. It protects you from going back too soon and getting re-injured.
Which is absolutely key. Nobody wants to rush back only to end up sidelined again. That's a major setback.
Exactly. And based on those FCE results, you can get very specific evidence-based work restrictions and accommodations. This isn't just guesswork. It's driven by the data from the test. It might mean, say, working full-time, but with a clear 20-pound lifting restriction noted, or maybe no prolonged kneeling. These precise restrictions become part of your official OWCP file, and they act like a blueprint for what duties are safe for you. Federal agencies then have to consider these. Another really crucial why is identifying something called maximum medical improvement, or MMI.
MMI, okay.
Yeah, MMI. It's basically the point where your medical condition has stabilized and it's not really expected to get significantly better with more treatment. If you've been doing therapy and you kind of hit a plateau.
You're not really seeing much more progress?
Right. The FCE can objectively document what your physical capabilities are at that point, what might be permanent. This is super useful for those longer-term decisions. Things like permanent disability ratings, maybe considering a job reassignment, or just understanding the extent of any lasting impairment. It can save you from potentially endless treatments that aren't really helping anymore by giving a clear picture of where things stand.
So it's not just about the immediate next steps, but also about planning for your whole career going forward, making sure you're not stuck in that cycle of injury, recovery, re-injury.
Precisely. And speaking of long-term, these FCE reports are incredibly powerful evidence for the OWCP claims examiners themselves. They can justify things like ongoing wage loss compensation by showing concrete data on why you can't perform your job duties. They're also invaluable for something called schedule awards. Those are payments for permanent impairment to specific body parts or even for longer-term things like OPM disability retirement claims. If things ever get to a legal proceeding, a well-conducted FCE carries serious weight because it's seen as unbiased proof. And what's interesting, too, is because these FCEs are designed to be unbiased and scientific, they actually play a big role in preventing disputes and maybe even deterring fraud. Well, they help resolve disagreements about how severe an injury really is or what someone can genuinely do. The FCE includes these clever consistency checks. For example, the evaluator is watching to see if your effort level and your physical responses like heart rate match up with what you say you can do across lots of different tasks. This helps ensure you're putting in a full, honest effort. For someone who's genuinely injured, this validates their limitations. It builds trust and protects you against skepticism. And for the system, while it's extremely hard to consistently fake dozens of different tests, it acts as a pretty strong deterrent.
Huh. So it really does act like a sort of transparent referee, making sure things are fair for everyone involved.
It really does try to. And finally, FCEs are just vital for complying with OWCP's own requirements. OWCP might actually direct you to get an FCE, especially if you've been off work for a significant amount of time. Your cooperation, showing up, giving it your best effort in good faith, demonstrates you're committed to trying to get back to work. A valid FCE result that confirms your limitations can actually protect your entitlement to benefits. And crucially, the FCE results kind of speak OWCP's language. They use the same standard strength level definitions like sedentary, light, medium duty that the Department of Labor uses for classifying jobs. This makes filling out key forms like the OWCP 5C work capacity evaluation much easier and clearer. It helps avoid misunderstandings.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why pretty well covered. But like you said earlier, it's a strategic tool. So timing must be critical. When exactly should a federal worker be thinking about getting an FCE? It's obviously not for every single injury right off the bat.
No, definitely not. You're absolutely right. It's about the right time. Probably the most common time is near the end of your medical treatment or when your doctor thinks you've reached that maximum medical improvement, MMI. So typically after the active treatment phase is over and the doctor feels you've improved about as much as you're going to. An FCE then helps assess, okay, are you ready for work? What are the lasting limitations, if any? It helps decide if you can go back full duty, if you need restrictions, or maybe if returning to that specific job just isn't feasible. It also really helps with claim closure or settlement talks. Another key time is if you've been off work for a prolonged period. Generally, if you've been out for more than, say, 3 months, or in really serious cases, maybe 6 to 12 months after the injury, an FCE is often recommended, it objectively evaluates whether your physical condition has actually recovered enough. You need that objective check-in.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
You need to know if your body can genuinely handle the demands, again, without risking an immediate setback.
Exactly. It's also really important when your specific job duties seem to clearly exceed what you can currently do. Even if you haven't been off work for that long, if you have a physically demanding job, think about like a postal letter carrier constantly walking and carrying, or a TSA officer, or maybe a VA nurse who has to lift patients. If that job is clearly beyond what you feel capable of, an FCE can quantify that difference. For example, if your job is officially rated as medium duty, but the FCE test results show you're currently functioning at a light duty capacity, it documents that mismatch very clearly. Furthermore, an FCE is incredibly useful if there's a dispute or just unclarity about your work capacity. If maybe your treating doctor says one thing, a second opinion doctor says something else, or there's disagreement between you and your agency about what you can safely do.
Yeah, things get confusing then.
Right. The FCE provides that impartial assessment. It can really help settle the disagreement by showing precisely what tasks you can manage, for how long, and how much weight. And importantly, it includes those consistency checks we talked about, which can help address any underlying doubts about effort level.
So it can be the ultimate tiebreaker, just bringing in that objective data point.
It definitely can function that way. Now, it's less common, but still valuable sometimes, to use an FCE during the rehabilitation process itself to sort of guide the treatment.
Oh, interesting. Like a mid-course check.
Exactly. In really complex cases, maybe a mini FCE or one focused on specific tasks can check your progress. It can pinpoint areas where you still need more work, Maybe endurance for overhead stuff is still low, or your balance isn't great, and that helps the therapist adjust your therapy or maybe a work conditioning program. The Department of Labor actually encourages using FCEs relatively early sometimes to get that work tolerance information. And critically, if it turns out you really can't go back to your original job, FCEs are absolutely essential for OWCP vocational rehabilitation planning. Ah, so if they're trying to find you a different job.
Precisely. If OWCP starts the vocational rehab process to identify a new suitable job you can do, the FCE provides a detailed work tolerance profile. It might say, for example, you're capable of sedentary or light work, but with specific restrictions like no frequent stooping. This profile is what vocational counselors use to find appropriate job options for you. So if you're heading down that VUNCA rehab path, you should definitely expect an FCE. And then finally, an FCE might just be ordered because someone involved requests it. Your treating physician might want one to get more detailed information before they finalize your work restrictions. Or your attorney might request one to strengthen a disability claim. Sometimes employers or insurance carriers request one to ensure safety before you return. The common element is just that need for a detailed, objective assessment of your functional ability to work. Okay, this raises a really important practical question then. How does this single test, this FCE, then kind of ripple outwards and actually help coordinate your whole recovery and claim process? It sounds like it's doing more than just taking measurements. It's acting like a crucial coordinator, maybe.
Yeah, coordinator is a good word for it. It really does tie things together. The detailed findings from the FCE, they help your physical therapist or doctor pinpoint specific deficits. Maybe it's that reduced endurance for overhead tasks we mentioned, or poor balance when you squat. This allows them to really tailor any further rehabilitation. It makes your therapy much more efficient and effective because it's targeted. FCE results guide the treatment plan, showing exactly where more therapy or maybe a work hardening program is needed to bridge the gap between what you can do now and what your job requires. It essentially acts as a roadmap for the rest of your rehab. These results are also just invaluable for developing a safe, realistic return to work plan. Often a phased approach is best, right? The FCE helps craft those gradual or modified return to work strategies. It helps determine if you need to start with, say, part-time hours or stick to light duty for a while or adhere to specific lifting limits like maybe 30 pounds initially. This data ensures a carefully graduated return which prevents you from jumping back in too fast. And it helps coordinate smoothly with federal agencies that often have procedures for alternative duty.
So it really does create a kind of common language, doesn't it? For everyone involved, your doctors, your agency, the claims examiner.
That's a perfect way to describe it. The FCE report itself usually provides a clear, pretty easy to understand summary. And the state-of-the-art reporting systems, the ones recognized by the DOL and federal agencies, they really do speak the language of insurance carriers, physicians, and employers. It just dramatically improves communication, it synchronizes everyone's efforts, helps prevent misunderstandings, and makes sure everyone is, quite literally, on the same page about your capabilities and limitations. And going back to safety, by matching your work duties to your proven abilities, FCEs are critical in preventing setbacks and re-injury. If the FCE clearly shows a limitation, like you genuinely can't climb ladders safely right now, that gets noted as a restriction. That ensures you shouldn't be asked to do it on the job. It really acts like a safety net, making sure your duties align with your actual physical capacity. And sometimes down the road, as you recover further, a follow-up FCE might even be done to safely expand your duties. It allows for a steady, safe progression back. Lastly, that comprehensive FCE report just smooths the path for all the legal and benefits processes. It provides that crucial documentation for DOL claim decisions or maybe reconsiderations if a claim was denied. It can lead to the approval or extension of benefits. Remember, we said the documentation is legal quality. It serves as really solid evidence for hearings, for getting those schedule awards for permanent impairment, or even supporting OPM disability retirement claims. So it helps coordinate not just your medical care, but all the paperwork and potential legal aspects too.
Okay, this is all incredibly helpful. So let's say you're a federal worker listening to this and you think, okay, this FCE sounds like something I might need, or maybe OWCP will require one. What should you actually look for in a provider? Our source material mentioned Restore Muscle and Joint is a good example, and their approach seemed to highlight some really key criteria.
Yeah, That's a great point. Choosing the right provider is important. One of the absolute most important things is to look for clinics that have dedicated OWCP expertise. You want providers who really focus on federal OWCP cases. Places like Restore Muscle and Joint, they're often DOL credentialed. Their staff deals with OWCP claims day in and day out, whether it's for USPS workers, VA, TSA, you name it. They're extremely familiar with the Department of Labor's specific requirements, the forms, the timelines, all that complex stuff. This familiarity ensures the FCE report they produce is thorough and, ticks all the necessary boxes for OWCP. You also want qualified, ideally multidisciplinary evaluators doing the FCE. It should be performed by a highly trained physical therapist, maybe chiropractors who have specific additional training in occupational rehab and FCE protocols. Having that kind of background gives a well-rounded perspective. They understand both the functional biomechanics of movement and the specific context of an OWCP claim. And of course, patient safety should always be their top priority during the testing.
Right, so it's not just about knowing how to do the physical tests, but understanding how the results fit into that whole federal workers' comp puzzle. That combination sounds incredibly valuable.
It truly is. And having a state-of-the-art system for the FCE is a huge advantage too. Look for providers who use leading FCE software and protocols, ones that are research-backed and standardized across the board. These advanced systems, they often automatically match your tested abilities to those official DOL job classifications we mentioned. They include built-in consistency checks and analysis of your effort level, and they generate reports that are just highly respected by insurance carriers, employers, and OWCP itself because they're clear, objective, and complete. That level of sophistication really ensures you're getting objective, trusted data that everyone can work with. You should also expect, and frankly demand, comprehensive reports and what we called legal quality documentation. A detailed report is essential. It should cover how you performed on all the tests, your overall work level classifications, sedentary, light, medium, etc., specific recommended restrictions and accommodations, and importantly, a statement on the validity of the test results. These reports need to align with OWCP guidelines, like specifying the exact maximum weight and the frequency for lifting. They need to be usable by your doctor and by OWCP, help with filling out forms like the OWCP-5, and be delivered accurately and in a timely way to help expedite your claim. That legal quality documentation is just critical if things ever go to a hearing. And finally, I'd say, look for a provider whose whole focus, their philosophy, is clearly centered on helping you achieve a safe return to work. Their goal should be to help you recover and get back to gainful employment as quickly, but also as safely as possible. They should be strategic about scheduling the FCE at the optimal time to help resolve your case efficiently. Look for places that offer maybe integrated approaches like having medical exams, therapy, and the FCE all under one roof. And staff who are just clearly familiar and comfortable with the whole OWCP process itself, it shows they genuinely care about getting you back to work safely while protecting your claim and your rights. What's really fascinating when you pull all this together is that an FCE isn't just, another medical test you have to go through. It's actually a critical bridge. It connects your injury experience to your future at work. It offers clarity and, frankly, protection in a system that can often feel really opaque and quite confusing.
It really does sound like that. It provides that solid documentation you need to support your benefits. And it seems to empower everyone involved. That's you, your doctors, your employer, and OWCP to make better, more informed decisions about your work life based on real data. It truly seems to help coordinate your care and your claim every step of the way, from guiding the last stages of rehab to communicating effectively with OWCP to get your claim approved or managed properly.
Yeah, and if we zoom out just a bit, connecting this to the bigger picture, understanding your functional capacity objectively, it's vital not just for getting back to work right now, but really for your long-term health and your career planning. It helps prevent those setbacks, those re-injuries that could seriously impact your well-being and your ability to work years down the line. It helps you build a more sustainable path forward.
It's like your physical capacity is this unique blueprint, right? And the FCE helps everyone involved read that blueprint clearly, ensuring that whatever steps are taken next are safe and hopefully successful for you. So that leaves us with a thought to ponder. Given just how valuable this kind of objective data is for navigating the whole OWCP system, how might injured federal workers proactively use the insights from an FCE, maybe even anticipating needing one, or understanding its potential value before it's officially required? How might they leverage that knowledge to better advocate for their own recovery?